Perfect, thank you. First off, it's great to see everybody, especially on a rainy morning. I heard there's train trouble and there was a lot going on out there, so I thank you. And I also thank you for all your coverage this year. I know that I always say this when we're in these settings, but I think it's really important. I think that your coverage is not only vital to our team and our franchise in New York, but also just the league writ large, so really appreciate it. I'm really excited today to talk to you. I want to talk about a myriad of topics, as I'm sure you do. We want to talk about the season, want to talk about the future. But I don't think that there's a topic probably more pressing than our decision to not exercise the option on the contract of Sandy Brondello. At the outset, I think it's really important that I stress and emphasize that this decision was in no way punitive, nor was it reactive. But it's instead rooted in being proactive. Nor was this decision based solely on the results of this past season. I actually think Sandy did a good job navigating this group through uncharted waters, through injuries and a lack of availability. And we've got a great level of appreciation for Sandy Brondello, the head coach, as well as Sandy Brondello, the person. This decision comes after a thorough examination of what the New York Liberty need as we move forward into a future of an ever-evolving WNBA. Very serious thought and consideration was made to retaining Sandy, but ultimately we determined that evolution and innovation is what is needed at this time. These decisions, they're never easy, nor should they be. But often these decisions mark the fork in the road moments for organizations. And you can stand still, or you can embrace change and move forward. And my commitment is to keep pushing the New York Liberty to new heights. We believe that embracing this change will bring a freshness and an energy to our group. Sandy Brondello will always be remembered here as the first coach to win a championship for the New York Liberty. And what she accomplished here is not only everlasting, but it's necessary for us to evolve into what is next. So I'm very grateful for the relationship we've built this past 4 years and will continue to have as we move forward. And we thank Sandy Brondello for everything that she's done for this franchise. So with that, I'll head it over to Brian.
Perfect. Doug, whenever you're ready.
JK, thanks for doing this. Appreciate it. Mm-hmm. From the outside, okay, I'm not on practice every day, not internal conversations, but made the finals 2 years ago, won a championship last year, started out undefeated this year until people started getting hurt. Mm-hmm. It seems that you guys were trending the right way until injuries happen that no one can control. Mm-hmm. What made you want to make this change? And it seems also from what the players said to Maddie after the game the other night that they seemed supportive of her. So what made you go, okay, I think we need to make a change and go a different direction for next year?
Yeah, I think it's a very fair question and a natural one. I think that you're somewhat playing with fire if you make decisions based on the past. I think our organization has always taken pride in being innovative and looking forward and being future-oriented and process-based. And for us, we not only evaluate throughout the season our own team, but we also evaluate the league. And with where this league is going, we felt very confident that we need to move forward in a way that we can evolve and continue to move with the league, if that makes sense.
Just building off of what Doug just asked regarding players' reaction when Maddie asked following the game, how much were they aware that you guys could potentially go in a different direction? And then following that game, what were conversations like with the players about this change?
Yeah, look, my phone's always on and my office door is always open. So I'm always open and available for feedback from players. And I do believe we pride ourselves in being a player-led organization, but at the same time, I'm also proud of the respect that we've built from the front office to the players in the sense that there's a level of trust that leadership will make decisions. we had exit meetings, and we go through those thoroughly with our players, but ultimately the decision's mine.
And then when it comes to that decision, what pressure, if any at all, do you feel in this move forward now, especially considering, obviously, the accomplishments in recent years with Sandy at the helm and the outward support from players of her?
Yeah, I don't think, in terms of pressure, I think that's based off of past results. And that's just not how we operate, and we never have. So it wouldn't be consistent to our mission that we've stated for a long time now if we base decisions off of that. And so I do have the belief that our players will now be motivated to know what's next, and that's for us to decide and move forward with.
When you think about like replacing a coach like Sandy, who's so accomplished, the grass isn't always greener, they say, and you also have to find somebody that's going to make this decision make sense, not just like internally, but also externally. So I guess, what are some qualities that you're looking for in this next candidate?
Yeah, also a fair question. I think to, tap onto something you said, we don't make decisions based on external. We base them on internal. I also, just with the way the social media landscape is today, with the way things are clipped, I think it would be really unfortunate for me to list out qualities we're looking for right now when that could easily be used inadvertently to imply something Sandy was lacking. And I don't think that's fair. Not that the question isn't, just what could happen with the reply. What I will tell you is we have a very clear vision of what we are looking for, and we are very confident that we will find that. I think that ultimately when we find the person to sit in the leadership seat there, we will have a forum like this where we can talk about all the qualities of that person. But right now we have a vision for what we're looking for, and we're excited to get started.
When Stewie spoke to us following that loss, she talked about how collectively, the franchise and players on the team didn't perform at its best this year. And I'm just curious what you learned about what came as a result of some of the decisions that were made throughout the year, and what you're going to keep in mind when you think about your growth as the general manager of this organization.
Just want to answer it so I'm understanding when you say decisions, what are you referring to?
When it came to roster hardships or not, when it came to bringing Emma over, just all the different things that happened this season.
Yeah, I think to go back to the start of the question, every season is important to learn. This is a living organism when I'm talking about the New York Liberty and an organization in professional basketball. And in no way is this a lost season. And in fact, I said something similar to the group after Game 3 in Phoenix, that we have to learn from this. And during the season, there were many opportunities to learn. I think there's basically 4 segments of the season, starting with the first 11 games, and you just take them in those 11 game segments. What we learned, the first thing I think is we have a really resilient group. I think that was exemplified incredibly well in Game 3 in Phoenix. This team really did battle. In terms of roster hardships and things like that, I think there's a massive misconception about how those work. And I think for good reason and understandable reasons. I don't think it's explained to the public really well, and maybe to yourselves. Hardships have a lot of complexity to them in the sense of, for the situation we would have been in, we would have had to attach 2 injuries to those hardships, and what you do is you lock in the amount of games that those players will have to miss. When you're dealing with the injuries that we went through this year, especially to those of Jonquel Jones and Brianna Stewart, there's a moving timeline for when they are going to return, and obviously you would like them to return as soon as possible within reason. We didn't feel comfortable that collectively, if we brought somebody in, that they would, 1, play, and 2, be worth potentially pushing back the return dates of those players. Then, later in the year, we did give serious consideration to applying for a hardship with the league. At that point in time, players we were interested in bringing that we felt could contribute were not interested in that. And other players sought out other opportunities with teams that would have had a longer stay and be able to prove themselves in ways that maybe means something more for their future in the WNBA. And then, quite honestly, at another stage when we looked at it, players that we were interested in were already overseas. And I just think that speaks more to the rules of our league currently that are in place than whether a hardship player would or wouldn't have impacted our season. Does that answer your question?
Yes. If I could follow up, when it comes to this core group, when in Phoenix we were able to talk to Stewie, Sabrina, and John Quell, they expressed that they want to continue and run it back. I guess I'm just curious, how much confidence after your meetings with them do you feel that they want to be back here?
I have the utmost confidence that they want to be back with us.
You used the phrase ever-evolving WNBA. Just what do you mean by that?
Yeah, I think that the game is changing rapidly. I honestly don't even know it's the same league as in 2023. I think that we're seeing a basketball style on both sides of the ball that is rapidly changing. And I think that will impact our decisions, not only that we made recently, but also roster as we look at our build and making sure that we are not standing still and we provide the right ingredients for whomever sits in that coaching seat to cook with. I think that you're seeing our three-point attempt rate, our free throw attempt rate dropping as respective to the league. You look at our 5-person starting lineup, and you compare and contrast it to 2024, it's actually eerily similar when you look at offensive rating, defensive rating, and net rating. It was actually better net rating-wise and offensive rating-wise, but it dropped in ranking offensively, even though we scored more points per possession than just a year ago. And to me, that's indicative of a changing league.
Just following up along those lines, since 22 and 23, we've seen a number of coaches, Natalie, Tyler, Becky, Teaspoon. All of them have NBA experience. Sonia, who obviously you bring in as an assistant to come to the W. Does the next coach of the New York Liberty need to have WNBA experience in some form or fashion?
You say WNBA?
Yeah. Do they need to have had WNBA experience?
Yeah, I don't think we want to limit our scope on a candidate. I don't. I think that we want to have a really diverse pool of candidates to speak with. I also think these are opportunities for organizations to learn about ourselves from candidates. So we're excited about the opportunity.
Jeff?
John, hi John. Thank you for taking the time today. Good morning. Just to a point of a clarification on the timeline of the decision to not renew Sandy's contract. Were you able to speak during exit interviews, did you make it clear to the players that particularly Stewie, who came out in staunch defense of Coach Brondello, did you make it clear that you guys were going into another direction? And if so, what was that conversation like?
Yeah, I appreciate the question, Jeff, as always. I think you can imagine how important trust between front office and players are, so I'd like to keep those conversations private. I also would just like to say that we always take into consideration how our players feel when making decisions, but ultimately we have to do what we feel is best for the organization. And if we believe that change can inspire multiple areas of the organization to move forward, it's the right decision.
Perfectly fine. I appreciate the response. Thank you. And to follow up, moving forward, how do you kind of, for lack of a better term, sell this position to a candidate? Obviously, it's an attractive position. How do you sell the position, though, while acknowledging the pressures and responsibilities that will inevitably come up in a spot where a two-time champion was recently bid farewell less than a year after winning the title?
One time. Or one time. You say two times?
Two overall.
I got you. Listen, we're really fortunate to have the ownership group that we have. What they've poured into this place is second to none, and I think based off of that alone, this is an attractive position, but we're really excited to learn about who is interested in us for the reasons that you stated. I think that this is a place of earned pressure, and I feel that myself, ownership, and our players lean into that and aren't afraid of that. I don't feel this is a place we need to sell. I think this is a place that is a privilege to work at, and it's a privilege to have a fan base such as ours that is so impassioned that they're the soul of what we do. And if that resonates with a candidate, we'll be excited to learn more about them.
Appreciate your time and insight. Thank you.
Miles. Hey, Jonathan. Over here.
Hey, what's up, Miles?
This is kind of somewhat of a logistical question too, but you've talked about the relationships that you've built with the stars on the team. How much input, if any, are you looking for from them? And then what are some of the challenges with the looming CBA ending and obviously having them as free agents? Because are there limitations on how much you'll be able to even talk about them during a potential, lockout or pause in league activity?
Yeah, I honestly not sure about the lockout and the CBA and all that stuff. Trust me, if I would love to know. In terms of player feedback, I think it would be foolish to not best understand what they feel they need moving forward, but also understanding that is one factor of many that'll go into the ultimate decision. Hope that answers what you're looking for.
Christina?
Good morning, Jonathan. Thank you for doing this. My question, since you assumed the role of general manager in 2019, this will be the third head coach hire within that time frame. What does that say about the evaluation process from ownership, from you, the decision making? Because when you look at an organization like the Minnesota Lynx and Cheryl Reeves' longevity in the league, there's a huge turnover rate when it comes to coaches in the WNBA, whether successful or unsuccessful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that Cheryl's kind of set the standard in the WNBA for exactly that, not only longevity, but success. I think when you go back and you look at the Lynx records over the years, there are some real down years there. There's under 500 records, but they also had that dynasty run where they won every other year. I think that during that time, we just spoke on, right? Like, this league is different than just a couple of years ago, let alone that long ago. And I just think it's more about an evaluation of the league and how the league is changing and who is coming into this league and leading these organizations on the floor. So I think it's more about that. This is not a results-based organization. This is not about not winning or winning. It's about how do we position ourselves to be at the top of the league in a real sustainable way as the league does evolve in the ways we're talking about on the floor. So for me, I think, in terms of Cheryl, I think she's exceptional, and I think that she's set the standard in that regard, but I think it's more indicative of the league at large than anything else. Mm-hmm. Do I believe Sandy couldn't? Yeah, that's not something I'm even comfortable going into. I think that for us, we feel really confident that we need to evolve. We need to be more innovative right now. We need to be more adaptable right now. Those are things that are really important for us. It's a situation, part of my job is to make sure that we're somewhat bulletproof in the way that we prepare, the way that we adjust in game, and the way that we approach a season. Our goal is always to be peaking as the playoffs begin, and there needs to be a proper cadence to that preparation to get us into that position to ultimately be successful at the end. And that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about process, right? It's not about the end, because so long as we go about what we're doing in a very intentional way throughout the season, health withstanding, some luck withstanding, I think that we'll be in position to do what we all are here to do.
Lucas. I actually don't have a Sandy question. It's
Wow. I
feel like we've covered a lot there. Sabrina's season was really interesting. Even the last 3 years, right? Mm-hmm. It's like no matter what backcourt partner she plays with, it kind of says a lot about her usage. Sloot, Benijah, or Leo, whoever you want to say, mm-hmm. and Tosh. And I was kind of wondering, why do you think that maybe she and the team didn't reap the benefits that she did playing next to Sloot in 2023? Like, I know shooting luck and injury luck, but when you look at and not an indictment on Tosh, but the Sabrina Tosh fit, like Sabrina ends the year shooting 29% from three. I'm just curious what you made of her season, her offensive usage particularly, and how that informs your decision about who to play around her, her usage going forward.
Yeah, it's awesome question, Lucas. I think that it's something that we're always evaluating is what is the best backcourt partner for her. And really, how are we planning to use her moving forward? And that's something we have been and are currently discussing. In terms of the Tosh pairing, I don't know that we really solved the off-ball production opportunities with Tosh in ways that were conducive to creating success for Sabrina. I don't know that we got her a lot of clean looks this year from three that, she's one of the best shooters in the world with immense gravitational pull. And I just think that there's ways that we can continue to evolve there. In terms of the partner, I mean, that's something we're really looking at. I think there's consideration of, is it time? Is it time for Sab to be at the one? If so, what does that partner look like? And so these are all things that we've been considering and we'll continue to consider, and it also will be heavily influenced by whomever assumes the eventual head coaching role.
Hi, Jonathan. Ben already touched on this a little bit, but in terms of the themes of evolution and innovation, kind of a two-parter, specifically from a basketball perspective, other than three-point rate, free throw rate, were there any other aspects you felt had stagnated a little bit? And then when you envision your dream roster for 2026 and beyond, what does innovation look like specifically?
Yeah, great questions. Look, I think that our problems this year, not taking health into consideration, but they've been the same problems. I think that the scouting report on us is probably to be incredibly physical with us. It's probably to push us out on the perimeter, and it's probably to be really physical. And I feel like our spacing has been a point of it's been an issue for us. I think that we tend to stagnate as the clock winds down and the pressure mounts, and we go east-west a tremendous amount. Some of that could be personnel based. We have to really look at that. But in terms of being innovative, I think that our spacing principles are things that we want to really lean into. We took huge steps back defensively this year as a collective, especially on the glass. We plummeted. We have to find out why. Is that personnel based or not? So I think we want to get back to being who we have been, but also solving the problems that we still found success through. Does that make sense? In terms of a dream roster, man, I mean, it's interesting, right? We have a massive opportunity in front of us. So do a lot of teams with the amount of free agents that are going to be on the board. And also our cap sheet is relatively clean. So this is honestly a probably once in a lifetime opportunity for many franchises. And I also feel that I don't know what the contract lengths will be, but I'm just, 3 to 4 years, the WNBA future is going to be decided in a matter of weeks, meaning like when ultimately free agency kicks off. So the answers to those questions will be, forthcoming in the wintertime.
We'll take a few more follows in the room and then finish up on Zoom.
I have a few just like quick follow-ups, but first off, talking about the season overall, I understand that like assessment can be multifaceted and you can have individual success and failures and everything, but I guess overall, how do you view this season? Do you view it as a success, or is it, I guess, what are your thoughts on it?
I do, because I think it's not based on a first round out. I think, as some of you in the room have noted multiple times, but for injury, we were right there. I mean, we are a win against a Chicago, Connecticut, Dallas away from potentially being the 2 seed. I mean, this team was up there. I think it was successful from the sense of resiliency. I think that it was a success in learning who Kennedy Burke is as a basketball player and what she can do in this league. I was really proud of what she achieved, even through the injury that she incurred. I think we continue to see growth from Leone. I think I was proud to see that. I think that I just learned that our group wants this, and I think that coming out of this loss, sometimes losses are just necessary. And I felt like this year, especially in game 3, when Leonie went down, it was like, of course she did. She was the one that hadn't. And the toughness that she persevered through. Leonie had a fractured rib. And I went back in the training room with her during that process. And Leo just looks at me, she's like, I'm fine. And I'm waiting in the training room. She's going to get an x-ray. Game's going on. I'm watching on the back of house television, and I get a call from our physician, and I'm holding my breath, expecting, I'm expecting news of a fracture, and she's out. So I'm on the phone, and I'm hearing the words that I was fearing was she has a fracture, and I'm waiting for the next sentence to be, and she's out for the game, and I'm watching on TV, and Leonie's checking into the basketball game, because that's who she is. And, so I learned a tremendous amount about this group, but also what we learned is where this league is and where it's going, and that's crucial for us. And I know you have more.
You talked about like how you want to be innovative and adapt and stuff. And when you look at like, obviously WNBA, NBA are very different, but some of the modern principles that they have in offense and defense and how that could be potentially carried over to this league.
Yeah.
I think about JJ and playing in like a 5-out movement offense like you guys were trying to do this season and had some success in. How do you find that balance with her in terms of like wanting her to be on the perimeter, but also get inside and post up? And then also she kind of ran out of gas toward the end of the season. So, obviously my next question has to do with Niara and, what is her status and her off season look like? And do you think if you have maybe a more trusty reliable backup center, JJ wouldn't run out of gas next season?
Yeah, those are good questions. First of all, I think we played Izzy at the 5 a fair amount, and I think Izzy has shown the ability to make an impact on the floor. And when I say impact, minutes that equate to winning, I think Isabel Harrison provided. And I should have mentioned her at the outset of what we learned with her. This year, I thought really proud of her progression coming out of a situation that was really difficult for her in Chicago for a lot of different reasons. I think you saw throughout the season, she took off that brace on her leg, which is at the time a mental battle for her. And then we saw her move in ways that she really hadn't since her time in Dallas. And I thought that she made an impact on the floor, and we utilized effectively in the backup 5 position for us. In terms of JJ and the balance on the floor, that's really a question for whomever will assume that head coaching role. I do think that JJ's skill set is incredibly dynamic and incredibly unique, and that there is a benefit to her being on the perimeter, but there are also moments where we can increase that domination on the floor in the post, but that is for whomever sits in that seat to decide and navigate those spaces. In terms of Niara, there is no question about Niara's status as a player in this league and what she's capable of, and I think everybody in this room probably agrees. It's a matter of health with Niara. She had a tremendous offseason playing for Fenner, and we were very optimistic with her coming into the year. And then her body just wouldn't allow what her heart and mind wanted it to do. So no, I think that we do understand the importance of having positions behind Jonquel that can impact winning. I do think we had that with multiple options this year. But in terms of JJ as well, I think that to be fair to her, I think that the injury she sustained was a major setback for her, and she did everything she could to get back to that level, and I just think she needed a bit more time.
Just quickly going back to the way the landscape of the W has changed, how has that impacted the coaching pool during, just in your tenure here with the Liberty? How have you seen the coaching pool change, even in respect to, again, seeing candidates from outside the W have real interest in coming into the W space, and how has that impacted your decision to go in a different direction?
It's a great question, Annie, and also I think it kind of plays off of yours earlier, Christina, in terms of Cheryl. I think, I've been in this league, you might not believe me, but I've been in it for over 16 years in just different jobs. And my goodness, coaching in this league has changed so much over the years, not only of who's come into the league, but to your point of who wants to come into this league. In the past, it was really difficult to find options in the coaching realm. And I think that plays into some of what you were referring to before. I just think that the optionality certainly wasn't to where it is now. I think at the outset of our conversation today, where I'm thanking you for your coverage, it matters because I think that candidates are now looking at this league not as a stepping stone, but as a destination. And that should be tremendously exciting. So for me, I feel that the pool is vast because of the growth of the league, the storytelling around the league, and the caliber of players that are not only in the league now, but are going to be coming into the league for the foreseeable future. And for that, it's tremendously exciting.
Two quick ones. Do you have a timetable for when you want a coach in place? I mean, by the new year, obviously by whenever free agency is, but do you have a timetable when you want someone in place?
Yeah, we don't want to put a timetable on it in the sense of we want to, as long as it takes to find the right person. Obviously, we'd love for that to be on the sooner end of things, but we're not going to rush anything. We need to nail this. Our players, if we're going to make a bold decision like this, our players deserve to get the best, and so we'll take the time necessary, but no timetable on it right now.
And the other one is the whole staff gone, or is it just Sandy? Like, if a player wanted to come work out, if they're all gone, who would they work out with, or is they still around, some of them?
Yeah, we haven't gone into all of that. I can share that we are also going to be parting ways with Olaf Lang. I think everybody in this room probably understands the dynamics there. But in terms of the other coaches, we haven't made decisions yet. Quite honestly, we haven't had the time. We've spent all of our time and energy on this decision right now.
Just a quick follow. Are you guys working with a search firm?
Not right now. It's a good question. Not right now. That could change. Right now, we feel comfortable with the spaces we need to navigate to get contacts and names of candidates. And right now, there is no shortage of that. But should that change, I think that's something we can make known.
And in terms of just other injury updates, is there anything else on Stewie? Post-season, Sabrina, even Benaja, any kind of health updates in terms of cleanup surgeries? Niara, going forward with any of the other players.
Sorry, yeah. And also, it reminds me, I didn't answer Maddie's question on Niara's offseason. Niara's not planning to play this offseason, just to state that for you. Sorry, Maddie, I forgot to answer that. In terms of health updates, I haven't had a chance as of yet to debrief with our performance team to get a thorough evaluation. I think you guys are up to date on the injury that Stewie did sustain, which was a sprain to the MCL. But outside of that, I have no other information.
I think something I heard you say that stood out to me was you talked about part of your job is to make sure that the team is bulletproof in the way that the team prepares and adjusts. I guess I'm just curious if you could explain what you mean by that.
Yeah, part of that is to just make it so that no opponent can take everything away. That's by making certain that our roster doesn't have any real redundancies where they're not necessary in terms of like reinforcement if an injury does take place, but to provide the ultimate level of optionality for our coach to be able to tap into when needed based on what they feel is necessary to have on the floor at that time. And so that's mainly what I'm meaning, is making sure that we always have the optionality necessary to tap into in whatever situation. No team plays us the exact same way. And so that's the point of having 12 players. I think we were very intentional about having 12 players this year for a reason and not operating with 11. So that is what I mean about that. And also it comes in the way of the resources we're able to provide to our players and making sure that we have absolutely everything necessary at our players' disposal, from recovery opportunity, performance team, evals on them, and the ability to get hands on our players and get them back to where we need them to be. So just trying to be bulletproof as an organization to the best we can.
And also building off of that, how do you reflect on how the 2025 roster was constructed, and what did you make of some of the folks on the bench and their moments of playing, moments of not playing?
Yeah, I feel comfortable with what we put together. I think this season we saw how much Benijah matters to our team. I think that when we sustained that injury, it increased the importance of acquiring Natasha. For the reasons I stated earlier, when you look at our starting lineup, it was the best starting lineup in the league with very little drop-off from the year prior. But there are moments this season, especially on the floor, where I felt that third scorer, somebody that can navigate at 3 levels for us in ways that Benijah can do. But then also on the defensive end, we have something really special when Leo and B are out there guarding the wings together. They're on a string moving, and I think we saw that. There was no fix for that. I thought we did as best as we could. In terms of the bench, I was really proud of the minutes that Rebecca Gardner gave us. I thought she was very poised and patient this season, which is difficult to do coming off of the injury she sustained and worked really hard to return from. But I thought, and if you look analytically at her numbers, she was one of the best bench pieces in the league this season when utilized. I felt that, like we talked about earlier, that Isabel Harrison and Kennedy Burke really gave us a lot off the bench when they were on the floor for us. So I was proud of that group and what they brought. I don't think this season was easy for any of them. As we navigated the space of injury and stepping up into roles when we had injury and then being put back into their respective roles once players returned. But in terms of the roster, I was proud of it. I think Emma Miesemann, that's a player that I think we just needed more time with. I felt like when she arrived, she was playing off of instinct and feel, and I think you saw flashes of what she can do in this league. And I do think that there's a role for her in the league that can be really impactful. I just think we needed more time to integrate and but the schedule is the schedule. Practice availability and time is what it is in our league. And I think that just the timing that she arrived at with the runway we had or lack thereof was impactful to the amount that she could contribute for us.
I guess my question is sort of in the same realm of roster. I know you emphasized that adding size was the key to winning the title in 24, and you sort of kind of went with that strategy this season as well. Is that something you look to repeat, or are you going to change something next season?
No, that I don't believe needs to change. I think that is something we were on the cutting edge of, just in terms of always, and you guys should just write it for me. It's what I always say, but it's two-way ability with size, length, and athleticism. Like that's the formula that we feel fits around Jonquel, Stewie, Sabrina.
We'll go over to Zoom, starting with Alexa.
Hi, Jonathan. Following up on what you were just saying about Emma, have you had conversations with her about, what next year could look like? Would you be interested in bringing her back, just given the fact that, like you just said, maybe it ran out of time this year, but would that be something that you all would be interested in longer term?
Yeah, as you all probably have come to know Emma, especially this year, she's very mission-based. So the mission was here, and now she's going to her next mission. And the way Emma operates is she doesn't make decisions, which I respect. She doesn't make decisions before necessary. So I'm not sure what Emma's plans are, and transparently and truthfully, I don't believe Emma knows what Emma's plans are in terms of. Our interest level initially is yes, but ultimately that needs to fit with whomever the head coach is in their plans.
Erica?
Thank you, Jonathan. I hear you talking about bulletproof, but it also sounds like there's a little bit of future proofing that you're trying to do with the organization. Can you tell us a little bit about what that looks like from your perspective as far as the evolution for you and a front office staff? And then also, quick question on the CBA. Given that we are still waiting on some things, does that impact or change what your timeline is or your to-do list is in the off season? Thank you.
Sorry, to go back to the first part of that question. I mean, I don't know that anything, what does evolution mean in terms of front office and all this? Yeah, look, I mean, we want to continue to grow as a front office, but not in the sense of adding a lot of head count, but I just think we're very growth minded here. We want to continue to expand our footprint internationally. I think that that's going to be really important as we move into the new rules that will be under with the next CBA iteration. So I think we want to continue to be internationally focused, but also domestically, really across the board. I think we take a lot of pride in getting better each and every year, being able to look across at our opponents and their front offices and making sure that we're growing in that respect. In terms of the CBA and how that changes the to-do list, I don't think it changes anything. We have to be ready, and I don't know to the extent you're aware, but that's something we're planning for next season always, like during the season. And so we've been actively preparing for this off season, and we're going to continue to fine tune those plans. And when we know what the rules are for expansion and free agency, we'll be ready to roll.
Thank you.
We'll finish with Cassandra.
Thanks, Jonathan. When you were talking about game 3, you ended it by saying you learned where the league is and where it's going, which obviously has been a theme today. How much of that innovation and looking forward, especially when it comes to the coaching change, was a consideration from last season within the championship season when you were thinking forward?
Good question. So it was very much under consideration last season, and I think as evidenced by that is we won the championship, but it's not about the end result. That moment will always mean the world to me, and I know many people in this city and our fan base, but it was about how we went about it. So we started to see the league change last season as well, but we felt coming into this year that we really wanted to lean into continuity. Continuity can be a catalyst at times, and we felt that would be important. But coming out of this season and really seeing an influx of change on many teams, it made the decision timeline tangible and one that we can be actionable on.
Awesome. Thanks, Jonathan, and thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.